Welcome back to TechSpace. In this tutorial, as you probably know by now, we're going over processing in Java, and we're going to go over in this tutorial specifically what it is to create a variable. So what variables are basically something where you can store memory or store some type of, I guess you could say, information. So it stores information on your computer and stores at a specific position on your computer, a specific memory address, and everything. So we'll learn all about that later, but for right now, we just want to go over how do we create a variable and what is it. So in Java, we create variables. We use different types of values. So we can, at first I'll start and I'll create three different variables. Oops. Actually, a string type is not on here. So we're going to have a float, a integer, and a double. And we're going to save them to different variables. So basically what we have here are three variables, and I'll break this down really fast. So we have a variable called x that is set to 3.234. We have a variable called y that's set to 3. And we have a variable called z that is set to 23.234. So basically what this means, we start with float, is float's a type of variable that we can use, and x is the name of that variable, and then we set it equal to some value. So we can name this anything that we want. It's just usually, you name it something that you're going to remember because you're going to be accessing that variable for some specific reason, which is the reason why we give these variables a value. So we have a float, and you don't know what float is, but float is something, it's a number that can be stored in the form of a decimal. So in a computer, computers have, again, types of variables. Float just means that it has or can hold values that are decimal values. So next we have integer, and integer, of course, is uh, something that from, negative number, a negative natural number to a positive natural number, which are, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way from negative infinity to positive infinity. Just the natural numbers, positive and negative. So basically, that's how you explain integer. And double is the same thing as float. It's just used to store different type or I can't remember which one's longer, but they're used to store decimals. Double I think stores up to 5 decimal places, and float stores up to I think 4, but something like that. And again, that's not that relevant right now. But what we want to do is when we create variables, we want to create them in draw, because remember draw, um, everything in draw runs over and over. So we're going to want to access these variables later. So we're going to put them at the top of our program. And that's going to be good practice for right now, putting all of the variables that you create at the top of your program. So what we're going to take from this video is we can create some type of variable. We're going to give it some type of variable type. If we want a decimal, we'll say float. And we'll give it a name, and we'll say first float variable. And it is also good practice to write your variables with lowercase first, and any word in between there, use uppercase. So float, first float variable, and we're going to set this equal to 3.14, and we're going to end it with a semicolon. So now what we're going to do is learn how to use that variable. So remember from the last tutorial when we printed out, or not the last tutorial, but a few tutorials ago, we printed out something on the screen. We can print out that value just by doing the same thing, but inside the parentheses, we just want to give it the name of that variable. First float variable. Spelling everything wrong right now, and we're going to run this program. So as you can see, I'm getting 3.14 on the bottom of the screen right here, over and over. And with a window pops up, of course, because we have it set to pop up. So I could take out the window if we wanted to and run this program. And of course, you'll see we get some default window that's made by processing, that's made 100 width, 100 pixels in width and 100 pixels in height, but the calculation still runs as it should. So that's basically how you use variables in their most basic sense. Remember this because it will be something that is very important, and you basically will use variables, and 40% of all of your programs will be variables and implementing variables. So remember how to use those. It'll be, again, one of the main pieces of programming throughout all programming languages. But that's basically it. In the next tutorials, if you're not fully understanding, again, you can ask me a question in the comment section below. But in the next tutorials, we'll go over this more in depth, and you'll start to get more of a feel for what variables are, how they're used, how they're implemented, how they're declared, the variable types. And again, practicing makes perfect. So the more you practice, the better you're gonna get, obviously, and it's just something you have to work on. And again, the more programs that you make, the more you do it, the more you're gonna be able to produce these programs and create these variables in a fashion, that doesn't take as long as it may be taking now to understand and comprehend how to use them in certain scenarios. So again, that might be a mouthful, but that's basically variables. And again, like I said, if you stay tuned, you'll learn all about this, and this will be easy. I guarantee it. By the next few tutorials, you'll have this down packed. But again, if you have any questions, post them in the comment section below. Other than that, I will see you in the next tutorial.